Welcome to the Cerebral Palsy Perspective, an optimistic look at life, movement, and doing hard things our way. I'm Chad Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Daryl Perry.
Chad, glad to be here as always, and we're talking about plans, talking about all the things we got rocking and rolling, and our pet podcast is taking off. So I'm glad to be back as always.
Yeah, it's exciting watching it come together. We've got a couple individual episodes out there where we kind of each tell a little bit more about our individual stories. And with it being March and being CP Awareness Month, I thought it would be a good conversation to have, sort of our relationship with CP awareness. And so for myself, I'll be honest and say that for most of my life, I didn't pay attention to Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. For a long time, I didn't even acknowledge my CP around others. I would tell coworkers or other people that would see me, they would see me limping and they'd say like, "Oh, you look like you're limping today." And I would just kind of shrug it off as, "Oh, I have a bad knee," or "My leg's just bothering me today." I would deflect, and really I didn't even get into the whole aspect of having cerebral palsy. And I kind of realized that keeping quiet like that and not sharing my story, it kind of kept me from becoming a better version of myself.
I could see that.
It kept me from being a voice and an ear for other people in the cerebral palsy community. And since I've shared my story, I've been able to do all these other things. So I'm really glad that I started to do that, and I'm building around that. And there's strength in sharing your story, not just for yourself, but for others. And it's something that I've really come to realize in sharing my story and being more open. But, initially I didn't have any relationship with cerebral palsy awareness. So.
Yeah, well, and for me, it was a lot of the same thing. Like CP was it was part of my life. It's always been part of my life. And if I could not have to talk about it in day-to-day life, I was fine with that. I would, if I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be questioned about it. Now, I had a similar experience, and as far as CP Awareness Day or CP Awareness Month, when I first heard about it, me and another person I know that has CP, we're kind of like, what are we spreading awareness for? We have this why is it an awareness day or a month? We have this all the time. But I ended up finally getting into kind of the groove on where you are. Cause even when I was online at first, I was like, I would do videos like what we have right here, like, shoulders up and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like people can hear about my thoughts, opinions, and ideas, and they don't even have to know that I have CP. And then I kind of felt like I wasn't the full version of myself. So I would share stuff here and there. But at first, sharing my life around like how my relationship with CP, I think what you said is actually a really spot on way of putting it. Like I would do it here and there, but I have to say, since you and I have put this podcast together, I'm glad you came up with the idea, because this is getting me doing it more consistent than I ever have. Zach and I have been pretty consistent with some stuff here and there, but like with this, because of not just us putting the podcast out, but like promoting it within the CP community and connecting with other folks that are sharing their story, like I'm in it more than I've ever been. And I think you're right. Like it's part of you, and it's a part of you that if you're willing to share it, it can impact a lot of people.
Yeah, it's I didn't ever see myself in this space where I am now, but I started sharing my story thanks to because you invited me. We've talked about it several times, but you had me on your podcast, and that was kind of the doorway for me being more open with my story. And since doing that, I have a scholarship that I've launched that we'll talk about on another episode.
Yeah.
But that, it's I have, as of last night, there 160 some applicants and all over the country. Like last I looked, over 30 states. So it's pretty cool to see that message get out there and bring visibility to something that's often overlooked. And so I wouldn't have done that. Last summer I created a 5K race, and proceeds went to cerebral palsy, and we're going to have a second annual race this year with the same thing. So it's just opened me up to a whole lot of different things, but it's not just 1 month for me. It's, showing adulthood with CP in an honest way, like we do here on our podcast, and talking about pain and fatigue like we did a couple episodes ago, and the things that we can't do throughout the year, like getting on ladders and hanging up Christmas lights. And it's a lot of different things that's throughout the year, and it's not just 1 month. So for me, it's more of CP awareness and visibility, not CP awareness month. And, I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring things out and learning as I go, but I don't really look at it as a month. I don't have that perspective right now.
I think what's really fascinating, and this is actually what kind of turned me to to really like diving into the awareness months, because like think about there's awareness months all the time, and you'll see posts on social media, and you might see some statistics, or maybe somebody will put a video out, but like you as the person that sees it, you're kind of like, okay, that's nice. But like literally, like within a couple of seconds, you've already seen 7 more videos or 7 more posts. That's it. But what you mentioned, and we did talk about, like the first podcast that you and I did ended up being a springboard for all these other cool things that you're doing. And that's what I think is really neat about an opportunity like this. Like all it takes is one decision to step outside of your comfort zone and like what you're saying, like lean into an aspect of who you are, and you don't know what it's going to lead to. So if there's somebody watching or listening that's like, I've never really thought about it, CP Awareness Month or Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, what should I do for that? Why would I do that? You never know what that one thing is going to be. Yeah, we're doing it in March, but much like what you said, like it ends up being a year-round thing. And I'm a big believer of like that one action is essentially a spark, and you never know what that spark's going to lead to. Or I guess if I want to finish the analogy, the spark's going to light up. You don't know. So that's got me excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with visibility and being willing to put yourself out there and see what happens next. I know it's uncomfortable. It can be just like when I used to tell I started off by saying I used to tell people like, oh, it's my knee, or I have a bad leg, or it can be uncomfortable to even take that first step to say like, I have cerebral palsy. This is a part of my story. Even that piece can be uncomfortable for some people, but it's part of who you are. And so to take that step and then expand from there, just be open with your story and see what happens. And
I think it's important to call out and there's going to be, you don't necessarily have to like, so the thing with us being noticeably disabled is we can draw attention to ourselves. And if you look at, and I actually just put a post out about this today, actually, where there are so many people online, whether you're talking small businesses, whether you're talking influencers or whatever, that would just love to have attention. They're wanting everything for attention. And, us just going out into public, even if it's for half a second, when people see us, that we garner that attention. Now I bring that up because there's going to be some days you don't want to deal with that, and that's fine. So like, even if you decide to share your story, share your perspective, you don't have to be quote unquote on all the time. You really can do this however you want, because it's your story, and you're bringing awareness to you and on your terms. So
no, I agree. And you know, for me and for you, you know, we've done all these different things, conversations with other groups online. You've mentioned being more active on social media, and I'm talking about funding races and scholarships and things like that, but it doesn't have to be that broad. You can keep it simple wherever your comfort level is, and maybe you want to stay quiet, you know, for the longest time. It was only 4 or 5 years ago that I started really leaning into telling my story, and I'm in my 40s. So, you know, for most of my life, I just kind of kept it quiet.
And that's an interesting thing too, is because like, and this goes beyond CP, but there seems to be such an obsession with like youth, right? Like you've got to have everything figured out by a certain age, or only people this age do that. And kind of to piggyback off what I said about like you're sharing it, your story, your way, and doing your thing. It's never too late. And I know we've had some listeners of the podcast say, "Hey, you know, you guys grew up in like the 80s and 90s. What do you think it was like in the 60s and 70s?" Because I think we had one that was the 50s, because I was there, and that's what it was like. And it's like those are stories that need to be told too.
Sure.
And you know, I think that when you are our age and early and old, or yeah, our age and older, it's always interesting because you lived a certain chunk of your life before all of this advanced connectivity of the internet, but you've been around for all the internet stuff. So telling the perspective of what life was like with CP before we could be connected. Because I mean, you and I were, you know, states away, living our life, doing our thing, and like would have had absolutely no idea, right? So like it's a very, there's so many details, there's so much nuance, and I do want to encourage anybody that if you're on the fence about sharing your story, this would be a perfect time to do it. Again, you don't have to, but there's always a place for you, and there's always a place for your story.
Yeah, a lot of different ways that you can show up for yourself and tell your story. There's so many tools. Maybe to even be somebody that wants to come on a podcast and tell their story. And if that's you, reach out.
We're booking guests now, and fortunately, you and I have a nice system on how to do that. And it's good that we talked about that, because once we put it out there, I don't even think we put it out there. I think we had people saying, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast." I don't even think we had the chance to put it out there to too many people. So yeah.
But being a guest on a podcast, that's what got me more comfortable. So, you know, that might be a good opportunity for somebody else. But hopefully it was a helpful, you know, conversation, just our perspective on CP awareness. Hopefully it helps somebody with their comfort level. And if you have different thoughts or different ideas about CP awareness, we'd love to hear it. We're always, you know, looking for feedback and comments in the episodes that we share. So feel free to interact or reach out. But that's my take on cerebral palsy awareness.
Yeah, we're here to help. Reach out, let us know what you're up to, and we will continue to be putting all of these episodes out, because we got a lot of stuff for you guys. We're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Daryl.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chad.